Welcome to a special edition of the Power Lunch live here on LinkedIn. I'm Rhett Power, your host. I do this program normally every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday around 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn's new live platform. But today we've got to talk to our guest, and we had a chance to talk to him today, so we did it, and we hope you enjoy it. I'll talk about our guest here in just a second. The point of the show is to talk to today's thought leaders, executives, CEOs, best-selling authors, to find out what they do that makes them successful. We want to learn from them. So that's really the point of the show. Now, the fun part is that it is an interactive show. So if you have questions, please do ask. I know our guest today will certainly love to take questions from you in the audience. Now, we are simulcasting this on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the help of Social Live. Now, again, if you like the program, give it a like or share so that everybody in your network can benefit from these conversations and what our guests have to share. Now, let's get right to it. My promise to you is to bring you the very best. I've got that today, I think. Sue Bingham is an executive coach, master trainer, and co-creator of the HPWD philosophy, right, Sue?
P group, HPWP, High Performance Workplace.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. I didn't have sound for just a second, so we got that. Hopefully that's our glitch for the day. She is the co-creator of the HPWD philosophy and approach to leadership. Her business partner, Bob Dusin, is a partner in the HPWD group and co-author their new book, Creating the High Performance Workplace. It's not complicated to develop a culture of commitment. Thanks, guys, for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. Did I get all that intro right?
It just real quickly, it's HPWP, High Performance Workplace.
I can't read my own writing. I apologize. Anyway, no, I want to get right to the new book. I think it's exciting. It was really interesting to read. Who is the book for? And whoever wants to answer that can answer.
You go ahead, Bob.
Well, Sue. I was going to let Sue answer it. The book is for anyone, really, any leaders or aspiring leaders, anyone in an organization that deals and interacts with people and knows that there's probably always a better way to do things. Okay. No matter where you're at in your culture and in your leadership style, people who are always looking for a better way, it will be impacted by this book.
Okay, so managers,
supervisors, frontline leaders, CEOs, vice presidents, salespeople. It can be even people who don't necessarily have direct reports, but even someone who doesn't have any direct reports is daily interacting and dealing with people and people issues. And this book is for them too.
Definitely, no doubt about that. Sue, what was I know you co-created this with your husband. What is the HPWP philosophy? What is it? And how did you guys create this? How did it come to pass?
Well, I want to give my husband most of the credit, but it started because he worked for a very large company and they were looking for what's the best way to management? What are the best management practices? And we're old enough, Rhett, that this is before the internet. So you didn't go on and Google best companies to work for. You had to really research it. So he did. And they came away with a number of principles. The primary guiding belief is that, and you have to have this belief, that 95% or so of people that you work with are good people. They're inherently good people. They own homes, they raise children, they work in their communities. 95% of those people are good people. 5% are not. Some smaller part of the population are bad apples. And the problem is that most companies have geared all of their management practices and their policies and so on around trying to catch that 5% And in doing so, what they do is they insult and really diminish the performance and the value of the 95%. So that's the common theme. There are 8 elements to work with, but the common theme is, we believe that most people are good and that companies ought to operate that way.
Well, that's a great segue into sort of a follow-up question, Bob. What is, where do companies get it wrong? I mean, if you look at, I know that's a really hard open question, but I mean, if you look at the way where the most people are disengaged or unengaged, whatever you call it at work, right? They're not happy, they're unsatisfied. Where are we getting it wrong in culture? And if the program, you talk about how easy the program is to put in place, why are we still getting it wrong? If it's an easy fix, why do we still get it wrong?
It's a great question, and the subtitle says it's not complicated to develop a culture of commitment, but it's not necessarily easy to develop it.
Right.
One person I was talking to one time likened it to somebody who wants to lose weight. The formula is easy: eat less, exercise more. It's pretty simple, but it's always hard to do, right? So it's that way here. And I'll tell you where you say where companies get it wrong. What has happened over the years, and Sue said this philosophy as her husband Ken started developing it, it precedes all the technology and everything we have now. What happened was, and a psychologist, Douglas McGregor, had identified this more than 50 years ago. Some leaders lead more autocratically and believe that people, as you said, don't want to be engaged. And other leaders look at people and see, as Sue said, see the good in people, that they do want to accomplish things, they do want to achieve. And so where we get it wrong is believing that the autocratic, demanding, control style of leadership is the way to get the most out of your people. Because almost any survey I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years says, to what you alluded to a little bit ago, 70% or more of people say they are disengaged in their work. And that's because we assume that they assume that all we want them to do is come in, keep their heads down, get their work done, and go home. And if that's our expectation, that's what happens. And as Sue said, there's that 5%. So managers feel they have to have all this control just to keep those 5% in line. Right. And that's where we get it wrong. Instead of focusing on those, get those people out of our organization so we can focus on the ones who want to accomplish something.
I think there's some other factors too, Rhett, in the sense that a lot of companies are successful.
Right. So,
hey, we're successful doing what we're doing. A second thing that has really played a major part is how fearful we are of litigation. That 5% is going to cost you inside the organization. They're probably going to cost you outside the organization. So there's a real fear of litigation, and how do we? So we end up developing all these policies again around the 5% instead of the 95%, and ignoring the 95%. So I think those are two factors. And the third thing I'd say is that it takes courage to be a senior leader, to be a middle-level manager. It takes courage to sort of push against the traditional and be willing to step out there and say, I want to practice this way. We know people who've read the book, who've come to us and said, boy, it made me feel so good because that's the way I thought I should be managing, but I got coached that I was being too friendly, or I was being too easy, or I was being something. I mean, they were coached against
who they
being
were,
respectful. Yeah, and who they were
sort of as a person, right?
As a person.
You're trying to change who they are as a person to manage, and that doesn't seem to work, I don't think.
No, in fact, many people, that's an observation they'll say is, I'm one person at home, and when I come to work, I've got to be a different person. And we're saying, no, you don't.
No.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think we probably all see that in our coaching and consulting practices a lot. what are the keys to you guys? And you guys can both take a stab at this, but what are the keys to changing culture? I mean, you talked about sort of the being, brave and stuff. But what are the keys to changing culture?
There are a lot of them. We could spend a lot of time on this. I'll give you one of my keys to changing culture, and I don't think, and it follows up with what, and some of the things Sue just mentioned too. And we talk about how we got this way and why companies, as you said, get it wrong. And Sue mentioned, we're told to you don't be too friendly with people, don't be too close to people. And it's really just the opposite. One of the things companies and leaders can do to start changing culture is get to know their people better. So many times we kind of know them, but we don't really know them. And if the better you know somebody, the better you know what motivates them, how they think, what drives them. And the more they'll trust and want to achieve things and do things that you think need to get done. But it builds levels of trust. So, to start building trust in an organization, that's how you start changing things. In a lot of companies, there's a lot of distrust between employees and leadership. And that's what leads to zombies and people doing the minimum amount of work. But yeah, one of them is just start building better relationships individually with people in your company.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think this is an approach that I took years ago too, when I was an employee